Thank you so much, guys. And apologies for being about 8 minutes late. Technology has not been my friend over the past couple of days. Yesterday, one of my teams back home told me I'd introduced the bug in one of the software components I'm responsible for. So I had to spend most of yesterday fixing it. And today, just before, if you were seeing me panicking, it was because I had to bounce my Mac 3 times before it would actually open PowerPoint. So I'm slightly nervous at this point. But hopefully, technology will work with me for the rest of the session. Thank you all for coming. My name is Silviu Niculita. I am from Cluj-Napoca, Romania. It's a pretty beautiful city in the heart of Transylvania. In my spare time, I'm also a most valuable professional with Microsoft, which just means that I do a fair bit of public speaking. And most of the times, the technologies I reference as examples in my sessions happen to be in the Microsoft space. But that, I'm not paid by them as an MVP. And I'm brutally honest, when one of their technologies suck, I will come out and tell you explicitly. And in order to sort of sweeten the fact that I was 8 minutes late, I brought candy. If you notice, it coordinates with the color scheme of the conference and the chairs as well. Now, the way I will hand out the candy is you guys have to participate, be involved, ask questions, okay? If you ask a question, you get a piece of candy. Right, and this also applies to the Q&A session that we're going to have in the panorama room. So I brought a bunch of candy, as you can see. It's all purple. So, surprisingly enough, it was really hard to find candy in this shopping center because apparently the supermarket went bankrupt. So I went walking around for like 30 minutes this morning trying to find candy in a shopping center. It's really hard. Oh, and one thing, the question has to be related to the topic of the presentation, so chatbots. Because I was in Poland about 2 years ago, and a smart ass, can I get a box of candy? And since I'm in the AI, ML, and ML space, I did a bit of human learning, and I learned to specify the rules for obtaining the candy correctly. So that's how this goes. Again, thank you for showing up for the session and attending technology conferences like these. The reason I do this, the reason I do public speaking and take time out of my schedule to deliver presentations like this is I think we as software professionals have a great deal of responsibility towards the society at large. And why do I say that? Because software literally runs the world. Everything around us has code in it. Our cars have about 10 times more software in them these days than the lunar module that took 3 people to the moon 40 years ago. Just think about that. The espresso machine that made my cup of coffee at my hotel this morning is running Linux. Why do I know that? Because it crashed. So I was trying to get my double espresso, and the thing had to be rebooted. I had to call somebody from the hotel staff, and they found a button, turned it off, turned it on, and on the screen it started saying, loading kernel files, mounting, file system. No, you're an espresso machine. The only thing you're supposed to mount is a coffee, not an operating system file system. So anyway. So that's why I said I am really happy to see conferences like these happen, and I encourage you guys, if you're working on something interesting in your companies, come up here and share your expertise, share your knowledge with the community at large, because we're on the hook as a profession to make sure that the stuff we deliver does not suck. Okay. Now, number one rule of being memorable, in addition to handing out candy, is making sure that you have the right message to the right crowd. So let's see, through a show of hands, who here has produced a chatbot that is in production currently and generating revenue or saving a company money? Nobody. Excellent. Because this is an introductory session. If like half the audience had said, oh yeah, I've produced a chatbot that's a concierge that generated $1 million in revenue, that person should have been up here. But I'm good. I'm fortunate enough. Has anybody built like a simple Alexa skill, Cortana integration, anything like that? Still no. Okay. I thought I saw somebody really shy. Okay, good. So this is going to be an introductory session. We're going to talk about sort of the basic principles. We're going to talk about the guidelines, the process you would go through in order to build a chatbot experience, especially for the enterprise. And okay, so the goals for today are to talk about why bots, right? Why look into this space anyway? Where they can be leveraged. Why should you, as software professionals, care about chatbots in general? We're going to talk about how you can go about building your own. We're going to talk about what the future holds. And at the end, we're going to have questions and answers and candy, like I said. So what the heck is a chatbot? Anyway, it is on everybody's smartphone, right? Everybody has either Siri or whatever Google's implementation is, or if you're one of the die-hard Microsoft fans that still has a Windows phone, you're running Cortana, right? So that's a chatbot. It just happens to have a natural language interface, so you speak to it and it speaks back to you. But it is a chatbot, right? So a chatbot is essentially, if you peel away all of the layers around, natural language understanding and processing, it's a piece of software. Most implementations are just web APIs, right? The same stuff you would build with Spring Boot, except it exposes different interfaces, right? So you interact with this piece of software not through a command line, not through a programmatic interface, but you talk to it, either by typing at it or speaking to it, which behind the scenes is exactly the same thing, because when you speak to Siri, it actually does speech to text, and then it feeds that text up to the cloud. You can use it to accomplish various tasks, from sophisticated items like ordering food to silly stuff like asking it to tell you a joke. Cortana knows some pretty good jokes if you have it on your Windows laptop. You can access a chatbot through an existing device, like I said, your phone, or these days, I'm not sure how well they are supported in Bulgaria and Romania, not so much, but you can get one of those oh, good. The screen flickered for a bit. I was like, again. You can get one of those $50 Amazon Alexa devices, or if you're independently wealthy, you can spring $400 and get the Apple implementation. And it is also a gateway to other AI and ML services. Now, why bots, and why now? And as our keynote speaker was telling us yesterday, the biggest driver for the adoption of the internet was commerce. And the challenge that we have in terms of accessing consumers for the goal of selling them stuff is actually predicated on this pretty interesting fact. Now, this is a study from the US. I couldn't find something relevant in Europe, but let's do an experiment. Who in this room installed a brand new smartphone application last month? Wow, you guys are really adventurous. I know I haven't. I mean, I think I installed Waze about 6 months ago, and that was about it when I switched from Google Maps. But the sad news is, in the US, 0 people installed a brand new smartphone application. So if you're trying to be the next Pizza Hut or the next whatever, it's really hard to gain market adoption because the market is saturated. There's 500,000 different applications in the Google Play Store. There's about half as many in the Apple App Store. So discoverability is a real challenge. So if you're new to the market, it's really hard to gain market share and to get eyeballs. Additionally, this is a really big trend. So the number of monthly active users that are entering a smartphone, a social network application, is being exceeded by the number of people that are using a messaging application. Right, so we're more likely to use. That's why, for example, Facebook bought WhatsApp for an absurd amount of money. I think it was like $15 billion or something. Right? Why did they pay that much? Because Mark Zuckerberg saw this chart. Right? And it saw that the growth rate for messaging application far exceeds the growth rate for social media applications. Right? So we're much likelier to open WhatsApp, Skype, Facebook Messenger than we are to open Facebook or Instagram or any of that other stuff. So The bottom line is messaging applications are where people spend their money, their time, and obviously their money. And chatbots are a really, really effective way to reach them. My clicker is. And a few other relevant codes for people is, Mike Roberts, who's the head of messaging at Kik, said messaging is the new browser and bots are the new websites. This is an article from Gartner that says, chatbots driven by artificial intelligence will play important roles in interactions with consumers within the enterprise and business-to-business situations, and that by 2019, startups will overtake Amazon, Google, IBM, and Microsoft in driving the artificial intelligence economy with disruptive business solutions, right? So if you're contemplating a startup, a chatbot-based software company might be the way to do it and be successful, right? Another reference by from Forbes here. I'll just skip over it because I'm running low on time. So it's potentially a huge business opportunity for anyone willing to jump head first and build something people want. And it is the beginning of a brand new era, right? So first we had the web, then mobile applications, and now chatbots. Okay. You guys all saw this yesterday, right? Okay. You guys know who Gartner is. You guys know about the, and this is the most recent one, August 2018. The way I like to explain this is sort of like, this is sort of like human life existence, right? We are born. Inflated expectations correspond to your teenage years. You think you're going to change the world. You're going to kick ass. You're going to do everything. Then you hit your early 30s. I'm in my early 30s, by the way. So I am going through the trough of disillusionment, unfortunately. But then you reach your late 30s, early 40s, and you go through the slope of enlightenment. You figure out what you're actually good at, what you enjoy doing, and you actually become good at it. And you're old enough, you have enough gray hairs that people will actually let you do it. And then you reach the plateau of productivity at in your late 40s and 50s. And then, well, let's not get into that. So technologies have the same sort of similar life curve. And if we look at, we don't really have chatbots explicitly called out here, but we do have virtual assistants, right? So it's on the way down, right? It's speeding towards the trough of disillusionment. Because if we're really honest, there are quite a few limitations to what chatbots can do these days. If you're trying to trigger an action within a particular application, it's fine. If you're trying to order food, there's a good example of, so there's a good startup in Cluj, in my hometown, which sort of aggregates all of the restaurants in the area into a single application, and you can order food, takeaway food or delivered food for yourself. It's called Hip Menu. And I know the CTO there, he's a good friend of mine, and they're looking into chatbots, and I challenged him to go beyond the confines of this single application. I told him, listen, I want your chatbot to be able to answer queries like, show me all of the pizza restaurants that have buy one, get one free specials, because I'm cheap, and that also have 4+ stars on TripAdvisor. And I was like, oh, that's going to be hard. I'm like, I know. But I don't care. That's the query I want to ask your chatbot, and if I'm going to use it, that's what I expect it to be able to do. And because it's hard to do that these days, that's why folks are going through the trough of disillusionment. But the good news is it's moving fairly quickly, right? So it will reach the plateau of productivity in 2 to 5 years, which is pretty good. So if you want to be well positioned to be a market leader in the chatbot space, now is the time to get into that. Now, in terms of where you can use chatbots, well, hopefully not in the bedroom. Although you can notice the WD-40 here. I think it's this is an old engineering joke that I like to say. An engineer can fix anything with duct tape and WD-40. So there you go. So where the heck can you use chatbots? Well, a lot of places. Customer service and support. Today is Black Friday in Romania, or here it's the same thing in here as well. I was almost late to the shuttle that brought the foreign speakers to the venue because I was ordering wine online. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of there's a lot of customer support calls on an event like this, and if your service center has chatbots built into it that can deflect the most frequently asked questions, and you can have a piece of software answer those frequently asked questions instead of a human, that absolutely increases customer satisfaction. Automating simple transactions, user engagement, brand awareness, measuring MPI scores through a chatbot can be very compelling. Streamlining social media activity, user retention, these are also all valid use cases for chatbots. Come on. I think my clicker is intimidated by the amount of candy that's here, so I'm going to move it. Now, is this all realistic? Well, it depends. Again, Gartner says that by 2019, so that's not too far away. I initially produced these slides in the spring, so that seemed farther out, but we have Christmas trees outside already. So by 2019, 20% of brands will abandon their mobile applications. Right? Think about it. 1 out of every 5 companies will abandon their mobile apps because people are simply not installing them, not using them. By 2020, 80% of online transactions will be handled by a bot. So again, 4 in 5 transactions where you're buying something or doing some kind of other monetary operation, it'll be handled by a bot. So that's really fascinating. Again, it seems that we as humans don't really like talking to other humans for whatever reason. So 85% of our relationships with the enterprise will happen without us interacting with a human, which is, again, fascinating. We could also potentially, I know most of you guys are developers, so Microsoft recently bought GitHub, so it'd be nice to, I have my own branching challenges every once in a while when I screw up. And it'd be nice if I had a chatbot, sort of like Clippy used to be in old versions of Word that would help me with GitHub. You can also shoot yourself in the foot when using chatbots. So this is an experiment that Microsoft ran back in 2016. I'm not sure how many folks remember it, but they built a chatbot on Twitter that was supposed to simulate a teenage girl. And it started out as a blank slate, and the idea was that the chatbot would develop personality based on its interactions with the society at large. And guess what? It became a racist asshole in about a day. So it started saying all sorts of nasty things, about Jews doing 9/11, and it became a misogynist. This is supposed to simulate a teenage girl. So just thinking. So we as a society have deep issues. We broke the poor chatbot. And the funny thing is, Microsoft took it offline. They added safeguards to it. They wiped its sort of internal state, put it back online, and the internet broke it again. So they gave up on it after that. So TAI, obviously, you need to be careful when you put these things online, and you need to monitor them. Again, most of the existing bots are crap. So here on the left, we have, this is the Maroon 5 chatbot. So I'm not sure how many of you are sort of rock fans, but Maroon 5 is a pretty big band. All it can do is say, "Hi, Kate." It doesn't even know who the lead singer of the band is, right? So that's a pretty useless bot. The one on the right was supposed to help people get out to vote. It didn't even know who Hillary Clinton was. Again, pretty useless. There's a recent survey that says that 70% of all of the Facebook bots can't even Facebook Messenger bots can't even accomplish basic tasks. Right? So there's obviously a big quality problem when it comes to bots, and this happens when if you're a company and you're working with a social media marketing outfit and they come to you, "Oh, this quarter we're going to give you a chatbot. It's going to be crap, but you're going to have it," right? So that's how this is. So quality is obviously really important when it comes to these things. Sam Manuel, CEO of Chatbot Service Poncho, said that our tolerance for mediocre bots is much less than that for a mediocre app. And our tolerance for a mediocre app is much lower than that for a mediocre website, right? So this happens in e-commerce really visibly, right? So if your page takes longer than 3 seconds to load, most people will give up on their purchase. Our expectations for mobile apps are even higher. If the screen takes more than 1 second to load, people are going to give up on your application, because within a mobile, a mobile phone, you're confined to a single application at a time, so we don't want to wait. Chatbots, our expectations are even higher. We expect it to be able to answer our questions all of the time. So that's our challenge as software professionals, to produce bots that don't suck, right? Now, why should you guys care, right? You're engineers, you're happily building your e-commerce or ERP or CRM softwares. Well, one of the biggest reasons is money. It can be extremely lucrative to be an AI professional. So this is a recent article from the New York Times. People with just a couple of years of experience can be paid from $300,000 to $500,000 a year or more in salary and company stock, right? I'm not sure how that translates into Eastern Europe, but I'm pretty sure we can demand pretty high salaries if we get into this space and if we have some expertise in our belt, right? So money for us as individuals could be one reason. Also, the size of the chatbot market is projected to be $1.25 billion by 2025, and it's going to grow at a compound rate of almost 25% every year. Again, VentureBeat and Gartner say that 2018 is going to be the year of chatbots join the enterprise, and AI technologies will be in every new software product by 2020. Again, most companies plan on 35% of them have AI initiatives on the radar. 25% plan on doing something with AI in the short term, and 21% have it in the medium or long-term planning stages. So there's only about 14% of companies that don't care about AI, right? So it doesn't really matter what market, what sector you're in, odds are AI is going to hit you, so it behooves you to be prepared to have at least an understanding of these of the paradigm before we become obsolete. Which would be unfortunate. Now, we've talked about the what, we've talked about the why, now let's talk about the how. Well, there's a few stages to actually building a bot. First, you form a multidisciplinary team, right? So you need product managers, you need UX specialists, you need all sorts of folks that have something other than engineer in their job title. You need to understand your users and to identify the use cases you're trying to leverage a chatbot for. You need to define your metrics of success. How do you know if your chatbot is any good or not? Well, you need metrics. You need to build those into your code base such that you have something to measure, right? It's impossible to improve something if you can't measure it. You need to define the personality of your chatbot, right? Are you building a banking chatbot, which needs to be proper or serious, or are you building a new and improved Maroon 5 chatbot, which is supposed to be whimsical and funny and tell jokes and whatnot? And then you need to define the conversation flow and how you expect most of the interactions that humans will have with your chatbots, and then implement those into your language understanding models and light it up. Now, in terms of picking sort of the software platform that we will leverage to build our chatbot, we have sort of a matrix like red pill, blue pill type scenario, right? Where we can leverage a bot development framework or a bot platform, right? If you're a really hardcore coder and you like to get into the details and you have really sophisticated needs, you're going to leverage a framework, which is much more powerful but has a much steeper learning curve. But if you just want to play around with it, just build a simple POC, MVP type thing, you're going to want to leverage one of those much simpler. Some of these are really, drag and drop type UIs that let you knock out a bot within a couple of hours, right? And since this is an engineering conference, I'm going to assume that you guys are going to go with a bot development framework, in which case, there's again a choice that needs to be made, right? So there's obviously Microsoft Bot Framework, which is Microsoft offering in this space. Facebook have their own thing, which is called with AI. There's API AI, there's Aspect CXP, and a bunch of other ones that you'll have to evaluate and pick based on what programming language you like, based on what level of vendor lock-in you're comfortable with, and all sorts of other items. Now, Microsoft's offering in this space is interesting because it takes out a lot of the complexity from plugging into the communications ecosystem, and it allows you as an engineer to focus on the business logic and building metrics and iterating on the chatbot and its integration with your back-end systems such that you deliver a successful chatbot, right? So if you leverage their platform, you get built-in access to a bunch of channels like Facebook Messenger, Microsoft Teams, Skype for Business, Skype, Slack. The one that stands out that's not here, it's WhatsApp, but that's not a technical limitation, that's a licensing limitation. WhatsApp doesn't allow chatbots on their platform yet, for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. You have built-in support for devices, for third-party assistants, right? So you can very easily tie in your chatbot to Alexa, to Cortana, to Siri, to all of that good stuff. So it's all handled for you, and you can just focus on the core of your business logic if you leverage something like, and obviously it's running on Microsoft's public cloud, so you can enable auto-scaling, and it will scale out and scale back depending on how much usage your chatbot is experiencing. So you don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. Microsoft will handle it for you. And again, when it comes to the ecosystem, building a chatbot is not a one-and-done type exercise. You need to plan, build, test it, publish it, connect it out to the wider communications ecosystem, evaluate how it does, and then you get to go back to the beginning and iterate, right? And Microsoft has tools that allow you to very easily do this sort of thing. It handles all of the DevOps aspects. There's a chat emulator that you can use to test out your bot during development. It has application insights that let you extract telemetry from your chatbot to see how it's performing. Automatically, it pushes the most frequent interactions from your chatbot to Power BI, so you can see what types of questions people are asking your chatbot, so you can adjust the logic if it's not doing a good job. So there's all sorts of things that are part of the Microsoft technology ecosystem that make building a compelling chatbot easy. Now, are they the best in breed in every single aspect? Hell no. For example, when it comes to speech to text, right? So how good the quality of the uttered voice is, Amazon is much better. So they're offering part of our AWS is called Microsoft Poly. That is about 2x better than what Microsoft currently has. For example, their Poly service can whisper to you. It's fascinating. So it's really powerful. But in terms of completeness of vision, Microsoft has a pretty compelling story to tell. And I encourage you guys to evaluate, their bot service and their bot SDK. Kick the tires, build a simple Hello World app, and see how it does. Now, let's talk about 10 guidelines to building a good conversational AI. First, you need to articulate the purpose of your bot and take special care if your bot will support consequential use cases, right? So it needs to you need to build something compelling. You need to build a compelling experience that will have value for the business, and that is also upon you to make sure that what you're doing is important to your employer or to your end customer to ensure that they continue to finance it long term. Right, so you need to develop metrics to assess user satisfaction. You need to assess whether the bot's intended purpose can be performed responsibly, all that good stuff. You need to be transparent about the fact that you're using bots, right? So as I said, it's fairly easy to these days to give your bot personality. So you need to be transparent somehow in your user experience to let the person that's interacting with the AI know that it is actually talking to an AI. Otherwise, people might get very upset and frustrated with you. Ensure that if your bot can't answer a question, there's a seamless way that the person can talk to a human, right? So build an escape button. Now, light up the use case that, if your chatbot goes through its switch statement and can't address a question properly, make sure there's a mechanism to pull an actual human into that conversation. Right. Make sure that your chatbot respects relevant cultural norms and guards against misuse. Now, the cultural norms thing can be fairly difficult because even if we're speaking in English, For example, if you're in Australia and you want to go on holiday, you would say, I want to go on, what does Australians say? I want to go on vacation. The British will say, I want to go on holiday. The Americans will say, I want to go on PTO, right? They all refer to the same intent, but you're using different terminology. So it is upon you as the bot developer to make sure that your chatbot understands all variations of expressing the same intent so that you're not forcing the end user to adjust to American English or Australian English or British English. Ensure your bot is reliable. Again, just like any piece of software, you've got to make sure that the thing doesn't crash, that it's deployed in multiple regions, that you have high availability, all that good stuff. Ensure that your bot treats people fairly, right, so that it is not racially biased. And this is, one of the ways you can easily achieve this is obviously making sure that you have, come on, Mac, diversity within the team that's actually building the application. Now, this is hard in Eastern Europe because most of us are Christian and we're also Caucasians. It's a lot easier, and for example, when I go to the 8x8 offices in San Jose, I'm in the minority there. But we can think about the different things that we can do to make sure that we have a diverse team working on our chatbots. Make sure you respect your users' privacy. Make sure that you're transparent about what types of data you're collecting about them. And this is not just a good idea as of, I think, April of this year, with the GDPR coming into effect. This is not just a good idea, it's actually the law. Right, so we need to make sure that we're not collecting more data than we absolutely need in order for chatbot to do its thing. Right, so ensuring your bot handles data securely. And also making sure it's accessible, right? So there are a lot of people that have deficiencies in seeing, deficiencies in hearing, and you need to test your chatbot with people that have those types of deficiencies to make sure that they can actually use them as well. And in certain fields, like if you're building a chatbot for the government, that might actually be a regulatory requirement as well. It's not just a good idea. And also accept responsibility. Right? This goes back to the thing I said at the very beginning of the session. We as software professionals are responsible for making sure that we build good software. Chatbots are not an exception to that rule. So if that seemed like too big of a list, you can simply cheat, right? So there's an interesting article that says that a lot of so-called AI startups were actually using cheap labor to power their services. And there's been a lot of examples of that. There was one that would, if you allowed it to look at your email, it would create calendar appointments for you. And they were actually using humans behind the scenes. And obviously, consumers weren't really happy about that because the company wasn't transparent about the people, humans would actually see their emails. There was another one that was doing voicemail transcription, again, using humans through a service called AWS Mechanical Turk. Again, not a cool thing to do. So yeah, you could technically, hire a bunch of minimum wage humans to do that and then wait for AI to be invented, but I wouldn't recommend it, unless it's for like an MVP and you're fully transparent that that's what you're doing. Okay? Now, what's next? Come on, clicker. There's a free ebook from Microsoft Press. It's not that bad. It's about 110 pages, a developer's guide to building AI application. That's really useful. I really recommend it if you guys are interested, and if I do a good job of enticing you guys to build your first chatbot today, then this is a very good starting point. It's a good blend of strategy about how to build chatbots and also technical details of how to use Microsoft's Bot SDK and the bot service in Azure. So as sort of your action items for today, build your first Hello World bot using either with AI, if you're really interested in Facebook Messenger, or Microsoft's own stack, right? So dev.botframework.com. If you're working for a professional services company, you can surprise your customers by going to them with a small bot MVP. I spent most of my career before switching to a software product company recently doing just that. I think most folks refer to it as outsourcing. I like to call it, professional services. Customers love that. So whenever you have your next quarterly review with them, go surprise them with a chatbot that does whatever it is that they're doing. They will love you for it, and they are much less likely to switch to a cheaper vendor, even if that vendor exists, because you're showing them that you have the capability to think outside the box and to innovate. And if you're working for a chatbot, for a software product company, I saw a lot of software product companies out there sponsoring this event, which I think is great. Think about how you can factor chatbots into your software product strategy, right? If you're working within that company and there's a hackathon, maybe consider doing a chatbot as your hackathon project, right? Now, going back to the subject of the presentations, the robots are coming. Well, they are, but really, really slowly, and most likely not in our lifetime. So it's something, the Terminator is something that my daughter is probably going to have to be concerned about. So we are here. Computational capacity is going to reach the 1/10 of the human brain somewhere around 2045. And then we're going to have the singularity, i.e. full AI, so a generalized AI. Unfortunately, not much longer after that, so roughly in 2050. So we've got a bit of time until the Terminator wipes that out. So the moral of this chart is, be nice to Cortana, be nice to Siri, because when you ask it to tell you what the weather is, thank it, tell it to have a nice day as well. So it's, get on its good side so that it doesn't kill us, or at least it doesn't hurt us before it kills us, right? So that's always a good thing. So as sort of closing credits, I'm really bad at Photoshop, so if you saw any nice graphs and charts and pictures, I stole them from the internet mercilessly. So I didn't put a copyright note in the notes, but if you do a reverse image search, you can find it online. Right, so I use Medium articles to document myself, garden reports, business site, etc. Also a great deck online. The really nice architectural diagrams are copied from Microsoft's own decks. And the 10 guidelines for conversational AI come from a really thoughtful research paper from Microsoft. It's not that long, it's about 10 pages long, so if you want to dig deeper into the details of these guidelines, you can track down their PDF on the Microsoft Research website and really dig into it. Now, I have a lot of candy here to give out, and 7 minutes left. So let's make sure there's no uncomfortable silence, and let the questions come to me. Yes, please. So the question, I'm going to repeat it so that you guys can hear it. So my question is, what bots my company has built already, and if they're already in production? We have prototypes. They're not in production yet. So 8x8 does telecommunication software for the enterprise. We compete with GoToMeeting, Skype for Business, Slack. So we have all of those products wrapped up into one service offering we call Virtual Office. And we have a lot of analytics behind our Virtual Office product, right? So if you've got 1,000 employees and you want to measure, for example, how much they're talking to each other, who made the most calls yesterday, we have an analytics product that does that for enterprises, and we're trying to expose all of that big data warehouse through a conversational UI. And we're sort of mixing and matching the technology we're using to power that. For the voice piece, we're using Amazon Poly, which is why I know it's much better than anything else on the market. So that's the type of stuff we're doing. Our goal is to have something in the market before the middle of next year. So that's our goal. It's not a matter of, we would have wanted to have it out this year, but it's a matter of resources. We had a bunch of operational issues to contend with, so that's why we don't have anything in production yet, but we are actively working on that within 8x8. Thank you. So I'm going to set your candy aside. Okay, next question, please. Yes?
When there is a real question between a bot and a human,
Yep.
at what point you decide to include a real support guy to join the bot because the bot is not doing the work?
Okay, so the question is, when do you pull in a human? When it's necessary, when it's absolutely necessary. So one of the things after we do the analytics stuff, 8x8 also has a contact center software, right? So software that is used within call centers. That's a smaller part of our business, but we do have that. And one of the use cases we're trying to light up is, for example, if you're a telecom company and a truck backs into one of your fiber optics poles and knocks out the internet in a neighborhood in Sofia. You're going to have a lot of people calling into your call center to complain that the internet is down. And what we're trying to do is do speech to text, understand that people are calling in to tell you that, hey, my internet is down, and you're telling them, yes, we know, a dumb truck driver backed into a pole and knocked out our fiber optics, but we're working on fixing it. And then having a bot deflect those questions before they actually get to the call center. So, hey, it looks like you're calling from this neighborhood. If you're calling from this neighborhood in Sofia, you should know this happened. We're working on it. We expect to be back online within 4 hours. So that's one of the other use cases we're trying to do within the contact center space. But in terms of when you bring them in, when the chatbot can't answer, and when you structure your code, you're going to be able to tell, crap, I don't have a good answer for this. Let me pull in a human. And an even better practice is to explicitly call it out when a human enters the conversation with a chatbot. Hey, my name is whatever. I'm going to be your virtual assistant today. Right? So that's the cue that lets them know that they're not talking to a human. If I can't help you, just say or type, I want to speak to a human being. And that's their escape key to put them back into the support, back to the actual support queue. Okay. Yes, please.
Hello. My question is about the words extraction when a user chats with a bot.
Yeah.
So do you know an algorithm or like an approach to extract words in steps? Let's say code DHA will be a step when the first part is an action and then the second part is part of a data model.
Yeah.
But just taking a verb and taking a word from a data model makes a lot of nonsense. So are you familiar? How can we do this?
Yes, it is. Let me find it. There. So the Microsoft's offering in this space is called LUIS for short. It stands for Language Understanding Intelligent System, I believe. And it allows you to build taxonomies that essentially allow you to interpret what the heck the person is telling you, right? So that's the piece of really smart software that if you tell your chatbot, I'm looking for laptops that are below 5 pounds, my budget is $1,500 to $2,000, and I don't like Mac OS because I have to reboot it 3 times to get it to project my slides. That's the piece of software that would extract that. Oh, so laptop, I'm looking to buy it, so that's the intent, and then the attributes are sort of the price range from this to this, and the weight below this and that. So that's the piece of software that you want to use. And it's really easy. So it's basically just a text file that it has sort of an indentation type schema to it, and you define, so this is the intent, and this is what the person would say. So that's how you would handle also, for example, the cultural differences between I want to go on vacation, I want to go PTO, I want to go on holiday.
It would take out like the verbs that are used in a common
that's all
speech.
built into the box. Yeah, taking the the and, the this, yeah, that's all part of it already.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Okay. We have 90 seconds, so I think we can do 2 questions. All right. Just saying, I've got a lot of candy here. I'll be in the panorama room with all of this. Come and get it. I actually have to confess something. I got a lot of swag from the sponsors out there, so I don't have room in my backpack for this candy. So come take it in the panorama room. Thank you.